I'm starting.
Okay.
Okay, so this is Studio Synergy
Whatever number it is.
live chat number 47. Inktober will kill your soul.
Yes, it will.
Um, it's this is going to be a super casual episode. I didn't really set up my camera right.
Like the other ones are super professional.
Well, yes.
I guess by comparison, maybe, yeah.
By comparison. I just, I missed hanging out with friends and talking about art or, whatever drama is happening in the world or
Really.
what have you. We got one viewer so far. I just posted out a couple of places. I don't know if there's going to be a big audience. We have some people, some friends that might make it later on. For now, it's just me and Eric.
Hi.
Hi. and we're both doing our own variations on Inktober since it's October, and I was actually kind of cajoled into doing Inktober by Mike Emirates, who I wish would have joined us tonight. And to my knowledge, he's not doing it.
Yeah. Well, he has some crap.
But yeah.
He's like, dude, you should totally do this. And it's just like, well, are you going to do it? Hell no.
Well, he just did a post like, who's doing it? I think he said, I'm doing it. And, I think Gaz jumped in and said he was doing it. And I was like, I thought about it. I was like,
is Gaz doing Inktober?
He's doing a lot of drawings, and I think he's doing it under Inktober. So he's doing Power Rangers.
Because I've been seeing drawings from him, but like nothing. Yeah. I haven't noticed if he tagged anything of like Inktober or not. So I didn't know if he was doing it or not.
I believe so, unless I'm totally wrong. But I believe his Power Ranger drawings are part of this year's Inktober venture.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm following the official prompt from the Inktober people. Like, that's the one I'm using. Which I like it because it's the only prompt, like, because I've seen other people posting other prompts that other people have made. And I'm like, yeah, but these are, like, super specific. This one's, like, it's just a word. Like, day 1, swift. Day 2, divided. Day 3, poison. They're generic words that allow you to still have the freedom of doing your own thing, but with a theme of the day to help you, kind of get along,
Yeah.
Like I was telling you earlier, today was filthy. I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna draw. And then, like I told you before we went live, I happened to remember the Peanuts gang had a character who was like that, and I was like, oh, I could draw Pigpen, and so I drew him. Like, I wouldn't have thought I would have never drawn him if not for the prompt. I think tomorrow is what, Cloud. I think I already have an idea. I had an idea for that back when I did Sword on day 6, because for day 5 was long. I was like, oh, I don't draw Sephiroth that often. He's the main villain from Final Fantasy VII, which is one of my favorite games.
Yeah.
And he has a long-ass sword, like damn near twice as long as he is tall. It's stupid. And it's a thin sword. It's like a katana style sword, but it's just ridiculously long blade. And he also has like long hair. So I was like, oh, that works. And then day 6 was Sword. So I was like, oh, I'll draw the protagonist of the game then, Cloud Strife. He has a big ass sword on his back. But then day 19 comes around tomorrow and it's like Cloud. It's like, crap. I already drew Cloud. So now I got to think of something else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw Kid Goku from Dragon Ball flying on the Nimbus Cloud.
There you go.
So it's like, I win. And I get to make it Dragon Ball themed, so I win doubly.
I happen to know that Final Fantasy, that was the one that was like ahead of its time, graphically speaking.
For its time, it was decently ahead, although it was a weird game. Like, are you talking about the 7?
Yeah.
Yeah, 7 was weird because it was originally going to be for the Nintendo 64. And what they were going to do is Sony was actually going to work together with Nintendo to create the CD-based system to make it work, because they realized cartridges just weren't going to work. So they were going to make a new console, but then they kind of felt like some bull crap happened. They didn't agree to anything. They just couldn't agree to anything. So Sony was like, screw it, we'll make a console. So Sony made a console. Square Enix was like, cool, we'll fucking make it for this. Then we only have to use 3 CDs to do that, because if you tried to do it cartridge based, it'd be like 20 freaking cartridges. It wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But yeah, the graphics were, at the time, they were mind-blowing, because you had these cool CGI cutscenes. You had these beautifully painted backgrounds. They weren't like painted, but they were like 3D crafted, but then turned into these like almost matte paintings, which allowed them to seamlessly go from isometric and then immediately switch into a cutscene to where it's the real 3D image that was used to make it. So they could do like panning and stuff like that. So by today's standards, the character models are really bad, but for the time it was amazing. And then just a year later, or not a year later, but the next game later, when you had 8, they bumped it up even more. All of a sudden you had solid figures and everything was looking even more nice. And then 9 was even more, like they just kept getting better and better.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, 7 was like their first big jump into the whole 3D realm of Final Fantasy games, and changed the whole format, really, like of how the story was really going to be told. The setting was a lot darker and more cyberpunk-ish, but with a little bit of medieval form, where you had like people with swords still.
Yeah.
And magic and shit. You know, it was cool. It's my favorite game.
Yeah. I liked it a lot. I really took my time with it. I put in over 60 hours at least.
I put more than that. Oh god, the amount of time I put into that game.
Yeah, I didn't clock
all the secrets. I must have everything. I must destroy all of the weapons, including that asshole in the water who's freaking pain in the ass to kill.
I remember just going across the land just to pick up health points and whatever else. Just spending hours doing that.
Oh, it's grinding for fucking hours, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, crap, that last boss was a little too hard for me. I need to grind for like 10 hours and then come back and realize that, oh crap, I just made myself overpowered.
Yeah, I just want to hit him with my pinky and knock him dead.
Yeah. Then you steamroll for like a good couple hours of the story, and then you hit that next boss who's like, nah, screw you, and just knocks you down. You're like, well, time to start this game again.
Exactly.
I'm that guy who's like, I tried to get Knights of the Round as quick as I could. When I learned about it, I'm like, oh no, I need this summon. I need this summon right now. Got it. Freaking powered my way up as to like max level, max points of everything. Like I was just like, I want to be a god by the time I get to Sephiroth. And I just Knights of the Round every round. Just oh, it's such a long fucking summon, but it's so great. Oh, it's so beautiful.
So let's see. Yeah, like I said, we might have a couple of people join us later on. Nobody's around at the moment. This is sort of impromptu.
Kind of out of nowhere, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, anybody want to hang out? I'm the one guy who I was just sitting there watching a stream of like PUBG. Mm-hmm. And then just randomly I got the blip on the side and I looked over and he's like, hey, anyone around for a hangout? I'm like, I mean, you really think I'm doing anything important right now? No, I'm good. I'm free. I'm free, dog. What up?
Yeah.
Oh, Abe's the one in the chat.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Yeah, I opened it up just so I could have the chat open.
Hey, Abe.
Can I pop that out? Yes, I can pop it out. Cool. That means I don't have to have that open. There we go.
You should join us if you can. Abe?
What of us? What of us?
Yeah. Do you have a camera set up? I forget. Yeah, when he gave me a thumbs up, I thought he was going to join. But okay, so yeah, I've been doing my Inktober, and it's a lot more complicated than just drawing a picture and inking it, because it's me, and
You got to show everybody else up.
So yeah, I decided to create another comic book because it worked so successfully last time, which was 2014. Another one of those projects I gotta get to and finish off. But so this time around, last time around I did like a panel, and that represented a page, a sequence in the story. This time around, what I'm actually doing as part of the Inktober thing, really goes against the rules of Inktober, but I'm thumbnailing pages and creating the story essentially live. And
Not really Inktober, more like Penciltober?
Pencil. Well, I've been an inker all my life.
Leadtober?
You know how I ink. Leadtober. But yeah, it's been going really well, except I had major problems with my computer, major problems with internet and uploading, which pretty much caught me early on, like day 2 or 3 or something like that. So I just uploaded day 8, and it should only take me a couple of days, but I'm going to catch up to current day, which is crazy, but I'm going to do it. God damn it! And I'm liking the story that's developing, and it's part of the fun is that I have some some patrons of mine that are going to be characters within the story. So friends that Eric. I have Jan, I have Marshall, I have Carrie, and my friend Paul Kajeji.
Cool.
They're all going to be in the story as characters, not their names. They'll be character names, but their likenesses.
Yeah, that's fucking cool.
Yeah, so it's really shaping up. The story, is slowly evolving. What I'm going to do, is something smart. Here's Greg. Hey, Greg.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I can hear you.
Excellent. This has been an ongoing issue for me, so.
No problem.
You need to get a mic set up like I have.
Oh, if I had the cash, I would totally do that.
Yo, it did not cost me that much money.
Camera.
It did not cost me.
I have no money. Yeah, I have the no money.
You have the no money budget.
If you could hook me up with one of those sweet copy of a mic and a camera, oh yeah, no, I would upgrade in about 3 seconds. So
yeah.
Just slide me.
I wish these were review copies. I paid for these things.
No, that's better that way.
Yeah, the ones I did get for review though, I would never send you them. They are garbage.
Right now, your garbage would probably be.
No, I mean what you have right now sounds better than what they sound like.
Oh, that's too bad. Because this is a craptastic
headset.
Microsoft Live Chat. It's like blah blows.
What I have actually is not like a super expensive setup. I have a Behringer Euphoria UMC 204 HD. It's an interface that I plug my microphone in, which is a Behringer C3. I don't know why I just like Behringer. I'm actually running the audio from that into a program called Voice Meter Banana, which is kind of a bit of a digital mixer kind of thing. And the reason I'm using that is because it has a built-in compressor built into it, which is why you can hear me as clear as you can, because I'm compressing the audio. Like I'm compressing it hard. But yeah, the Behringer interface isn't that expensive. It's like well under $100. The mic was only like 60, 70 bucks. And it's a true XLR microphone. So it's not USB. You can get a USB microphone though, like a Samsung CO1. You can get a USB one of those for like 60, 70 bucks. It's really good. I used to use this.
I got a gift recently. Since I went away for 7 months, just in case anybody didn't watch my other videos, but I have a headset, which is what actually I'm using now. And I think it's pretty good. The audio could be better. Sometimes it gets a little wacky.
I mean, it's good for being what it is. It's a headset mic.
Yeah. But I had this mic that I can plug into my computer, but it threw off every other audio setting and program when I used it. So I was like, I have to like put aside time and figure it out. So meanwhile, I'm just continuing to use this because for a while after I was using that, it worked perfectly the first day or two. And then it is like everything was totally thrown off and I couldn't figure out what the hell. And the only thing that seemed to work after that was my headset. So it was like, I don't have time for this now. I'm having other computer issues on top of that. It was like, oh my God.
It could just be a bunch of driver issues. Like your headset plugs directly into the computer, so that's why it's just going to inherently work, usually.
Well, so did the mic, but it's like I have an all-in-one, so it's a monitor with the computer in it, and I don't know. I don't like the setup of where you plug the shit in. Other than that, it's perfect.
I've looked at all-in-ones, but for the fact that I'm a gamer, I produce music. I also produce my videos when I want to. I want to stream every now and then. I had to go with the freaking desktop, and then it's a beast of a tower. It's a big computer. I do need to upgrade some stuff. God, I need to build a whole new computer because I can't upgrade my processor because my dumbass decided to buy a motherboard. Literally, the processor I have in it is the best it can handle right now. And I'm like, but there's one step up higher from mine.
Yeah, and in 3 months there'll be 6.
Oh God. And it's not like I'm buying Intel, I'm buying AMD, so it's like ugh.
I want to mention Abe's talking. So to my why didn't he join the chat? He's like, too noisy here, got kids running around and yelling and stuff.
Oh, I have a TV in the background. I'm sure you guys can hear that. Although I don't know.
Is that what I hear? If I hear it, it's very low.
Yeah, it's that's the unfortunate side of compression. That's what compression does.
Yeah. Then he said he hit a wall on day 13th of Inktober, so he's behind again.
How am I the one who's like on point with freaking Inktober shit here?
I know, really.
I was struggling to do 100 days, man. Like, when am I the one just like on freaking point? I get my shit done early in the day, and then I got the rest of the day to work on music.
It's true. Like I know a bunch of people that are like behind currently. And then he said produce
reviews. Yeah, I think maybe someone accidentally said produce instead of product.
Oh.
I don't know.
I like produce.
Produce is good.
Yo. So I'm not getting any other messages, just checking around. Okay.
I actually got complicated on a couple of these freaking drawings. Like, I don't know why. Because, like, the Sephiroth picture, the Poison Ivy picture, and the freaking Mirror Master pictures. Like, I was like, I want to do something cool and fancy, and then I had to like digitally pencil them, print out on paper, and then ink by using a light board. I'm like, what am I doing? These are just supposed to be quick things. Why am I putting so much effort into these?
Because everybody else in the art community is freaking doing Inktober.
I know.
And you know, so that you're not the bottom rung.
Well, it's not even that. It wasn't even like me consciously going, oh, I don't want to be showed up. I literally just had the idea of like, oh, I want to draw Sephiroth. Oh, but I don't want to just do like a buzz shot of him. No, I'll do a really cool picture of like him from behind so you can see his sword and stuff. I don't know why. Mirror Master. I'm going to have Mirror Master's face. Oh, but I can make it so it's like he's in a mirror and the mirror's like broken and shattered and stuff. And like...
I loved your what's that, the Spider-Man villain, the mystical, what's his
Mysterio?
name? Mysterio.
Yeah, Mysterio,
yeah. Mysterio. Yeah, I loved your Mysterio. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was fun because I've never drawn him before. So I was like, hey, why not?
He's just a visually fun character, and you nailed him.
Although there's like some versions of him where he has like those pinstripes like all over his body. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing that one. And then I saw a design where it's just like on the side bits, like I drew it, and I was like, that one, I'm doing that one.
That's obviously not, that's I'm sure not the Ditko one then, right? Like it's one of the subsequent.
It's one of the later ones.
Yeah. So because like Ditko would be this like regimented
fucking grid pattern.
Well, I mean, I just mean it would be this regimented point of pride where, like, it's like if you are going to draw a Mysterio, then you must have exactly these pinstripes in these areas.
Yeah,
but kind of like Aquaman was becoming.
Well, it's more like because like my Ayn Randian, attention to strict detail in all things in my life requires that all lines on Mysterio be the same.
Yeah.
And if you do not do it, then you are obviously antithetical to my philosophy on heroism.
My thing is, as long as it's close, it's good enough.
See, like you would end up in the doghouse there.
Totally I don't care.
Right?
I'm like, hey, does it look good? Yes, and shut up. If I draw Venom, I don't need him to have the exact same amount of teeth like every time, Or even Spider-Man, I don't need to have the exact number of webbings.
So I don't know if you guys know this, but we have a fourth Beatle.
Yeah, Mr. Michael jumped in.
I don't know if he has audio.
I don't know. All I know is he has video.
Or if he's there.
Michael, you there?
Hello.
Hello, I'm just working on my, my strings on my guitar here.
Okay.
Oh, hey, fellow musician.
Welcome.
Something like that, but not really.
Howdy. I instantly like you more than the rest of these guys.
Right
oh,
on.
my God.
Sorry, guys. I'm just that good.
Yep.
I don't need people to like me. I'm here to win.
I'm here to win.
Actually, speaking of strings, I need to restring my goddamn Strat. The poor thing is just sitting there with dead ass strings.
So, have you ever been on one of my hangouts, Michael?
I don't think so. Maybe not. I'm not sure. It's been a while.
If you were, it's been a long while. Maybe. Introduce yourself so the audience will get to know you.
I'm Michael, and I am also behind on Inktober. And so that's pretty much my art career in a nutshell. Oh, you're behind? Yep. So.
Hi, I'm Michael. I have a problem.
Right.
Artists Anonymous. That's our version of AA. Artists Anonymous.
So what kind of thing are you following for your pieces? Any of the prompts, or are you doing your own thing, or?
Yeah, the prompts I'm trying to follow. Just been like I don't know. I think somebody was talking. Who was saying that they're trying to get ambitious and all that kind of stuff on some
Eric?
of the. Yeah,
that
on
might
their
have been me.
drawings.
I wasn't trying to. It just happened.
Yeah. I think like on my day 2, I started to try to become like ambitious. I was like, oh no, and then
Yeah, I was seeing like what other artists like Sandy and all were doing. I'm like, nah, fuck that. I'm not getting that hyper detailed unless I'm getting paid. I'm not doing that much detail.
yeah. No, and I think like it's just like difficult not to, right? Because you see a lot of artists that are really good, and yeah, you're not supposed to compare and all that, but you can actually just try to strive to be like them. But I don't know, you see some great stuff out there, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to put up stick figures. You know, so.
No, I see that stuff. I'm like, I'm gonna keep my shit simple.
Yeah, really like,
that's a lot of work.
Like on day 4, but I still need to finish day 2 because I finished day 3 and day 1. So it's like,
I just finished day 17.
Oh, did you? Oh man, lucky. All right,
dude. I've been doing it every day, like perfectly.
Like this is what I got for like day 1. What was it, like Swift or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like Rogue versus the Sentinel. And then day 2 was what, Divided or something like that.
Yeah.
And then so I was like, oh yeah, let's try like dry brushing or something. And
wow.
And I was gonna do the Dr.
Jekyll. Those are like actual illustrations, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's my problem. I don't want to do that. So then I was like, okay, I'll do a quick one of Poison Ivy because of, what was it, Poison or something?
Right.
Yeah, see, that's still more than what I did.
Yeah,
I just did her standing all pretty like.
Yeah, so I don't know. Whatever. So I'm trying to catch up. That's all I'm trying to say.
It's looking really good.
Hell, I technically phoned it in on what day was Fat? I forget what day of that was. That might have been 16. I don't remember.
Out of all the prompts,
day 16 was Fat, and I was like, I'm feeling lazy today. I'm drawing Majin Buu.
Out of all the prompts, I think that was the laziest day all around because I haven't seen a good Fat prompt piece yet.
I know, like, I don't think anyone could really think of a good idea for Fat that wasn't like really obvious things. And I'm like, even I couldn't figure. I was like, I'm just gonna draw Majin Buu. Like, I'm good. I don't need anything. Hell, today is technically an even lazier day because all I drew was Pigpen. Like, that is super, super simple design for the Peanuts gang stuff. So that was super lazy. But then I keep making things more complicated.
That was pretty spot on, I thought, too. I thought you did a good job of...
it's okay.
You know, it's good.
Oh,
I'm not used to inking this way.
Well, like, the other thing, too, is I don't know if you inked it digital or pen on paper.
All the inks are traditional.
They are? Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to it's... If you were trying to, like, nobody can clone the Schultz look unless you have exactly the precise tools, and you would also have to have his hand, right? So it's just, you know, it's not
like if I spent a few hours, like mimicking his style for like a good couple hours, maybe I could get like really close. But I literally drew it like one off.
But it looked nice. It was, you know, it was good.
It was just weird because, like, if you could see, I wish I could, like, I don't have a webcam, so I can't actually physically show you. But if you see the picture, like, I drew it on the same size paper that I drew pretty much everything else on. So those extra thick ass lines are literally a very thick, like the marker that I would use to fill in blacks. I just used the fine tip and did that. That felt so weird. I was telling Pete this earlier. I was like, I'm not used to doing this. This is weird. I'm not one of those like Butch Hartman guys who's like, oh, I'm gonna draw Danny Phantom, pulls out a blank sheet of paper, pulls out a Sharpie, and just draws the motherfucker. I'm like, fuck you. Like, I can't do that. I need to sketch things and then take my time inking it and stuff. Motherfucker's just like, nope, Sharpie. Like, man, that ain't right.
I was watching this girl stream, and she was drawing this female figure, and she was a digital artist, and she like drew the head and started drawing the top of the torso and then going down, and then she like just pulled pieces of it apart and stretch it out and then twist things. And I mean, you know, it's like everything a digital artist can do, she was doing. It's like, oh my God, you know, it's like all my crappy drawings would be so good if I was a digital artist.
I mean, that's the advantage of being a digital artist, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I like using digital tools, because it gives me more freedom to just kind of throw a few extra things down, try something new, and if I fuck up, oh well, I can just delete it.
I understand why
It's more convenient.
people, you know, use digital tools to do digital art, and you know, I'm still old school in many ways. I want, you know, the original artwork and whatnot, but I will get to a point where I'm using digital tools more when I could afford the right equipment. You know, because I had like a cheap knockoff of you know, like a bamboo.
You had just a regular graphics tablet.
Yeah.
I never did like this.
It was no, it was totally throwing me off.
Like if that was what you started with, then you're usually okay. Like if you started young with that, but when you've been drawing a certain way for a long enough time, all of a sudden you try using that shit, you're just like, I can't look at my hand.
It is like, it's going the wrong way. Why does it keep going the wrong way?
Yeah. I mean, I used it for a while, but I didn't do any sketching. I would just do mostly the ink stuff on.
Right. Yeah.
Because that I can control pretty well because I do it slowly anyway. But even then, I was still like, oh, this feels weird. I can't, because when I ink, I do it the way you're usually supposed to. It's like wherever you start your line, you keep your eye slightly ahead of where you're going because it helps keep you going across the line straight or in line with what you're supposed to be drawing. You don't like go way off of your pencils, you know? But you can't do that with a graphics tablet. But now that I have the digital screen tablet, which I've had for a little while, I can do it again. I can actually follow the line better and lead lead the pen better.
Right.
That was fun relearning that crap when I was doing this Inktober stuff. Like, oh, right, I have to be more careful with how I'm pressing the pencil and, you know, how I'm using the ink, which I need to buy more markers because these frickers are finally dying. My 8 is almost completely barren. My 5 is definitely getting there because I like to use it. It used to be my main one. I'm having to use a 0.3 now, which is freaking weird. Smaller lines and shit. I don't have a good black marker. I just have these like Blick Studios, which I think is the website Dick Blick. I think it's their brand markers. I have like a whole set of the markers. I don't use them. I'm just using the black marker because it's like, I gotta fill in large areas of black. And Sharpies bleed too badly. And also turn yellowy.
Yeah, that's where real ink is always gonna a lot of times is gonna like actually do better because you can control it and it doesn't bleed. It just, you know, it sits on the paper. Well, I mean,
yeah, but if depending on the paper style, it could also warp the paper. I had that problem with one of the drawings where I used my Pentel brush pen.
Yeah.
It's literally a brush with the whole body is just filled with ink. It's lovely.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't doing very well, so I had to switch to the thicker paper.
Well, that's like, that's why you use Bristol with ink, you know. I mean,
but you know what's even easier? The fill bucket tool. I don't have to worry about bleed. I don't have to worry about buying ink every month. I just click, hey.
Yeah. It would be highly disruptive to my workflow, and it would be highly disruptive to the type of line I would make. I would cease to make the lines that I make. and also I'd have no art to resell. And in terms of archive, I mean, basically a digital archive is an impermanent archiving process, and unless one gets into really militant, you know, file, constant file backup,
Spare hard drive.
which I have to do. Yeah, but the thing is that the spare hard drive breaks down. The paper that I drew on is forever unless there's a fire, and short of
Or
that,
water damage.
yeah, even water damage, I could still dry it out and I can still rescan it. And in fact, I'm in the process of making archival prints of my color page art for my comics so that I have something on paper that, if a drive were to blow up, I would have, something at an extremely high res and large size to
Right.
and then republish with.
I guess for me, I've just never been.
But resale of art is.
I've never really cared for the whole resale thing. Like I never was like, oh, I want to sell the original pieces. I would never. I would like because for my thing is I will almost always ink digitally. So the most I would be able to sell is pencils if I decided to do them. And I would never. I like as much as I love Jack Kirby. Oh God, I would hate to have pencils of his because Jesus Christ, that stuff is not easy to take care of. Pencils can go bad quick if you're not careful with how you seal it in a glass container. Ooh, that can go bad quick. I'd rather have inks because at least inks, they're a little more permanent. Like even though they'll fade a little bit, they'll stay pretty good for a while.
Well, I mean,
I have
India ink doesn't fade, and graphite doesn't fade either.
Yeah.
I have pencil pages that are like years old that I have to get to in ink.
Yeah.
They're still in the same shape as far as I know.
It's graphite on paper. It's not really going to go anywhere. But I mean,
do you have them stored away?
They're on the shelf in a pile.
Yeah.
You lucky fucking bastard.
I mean, I try to keep my studio from getting too hot and humid.
Oh, that's good. That saves paper.
But other than that, I mean,
humidity is horrible for paper.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrible to work in.
Oh yeah, it's horrible to work in. But like, if you store things in an area that's a little more humid, all of a sudden you pull them out and it's just like, what happened to the paper? Why is it all warpy?
Yep.
Oh right, humidity.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, I mean, there are standard archival procedures that you can do with paper art to get it flat again. I mean, you can dehumidify with weight and with airflow. There's ways to do it even in a home situation that, I mean, you may not get it to a perfect flat, but the fact is that any collectible original art that's just pencil on Bristol most likely has dents, scuffs, finger, hand grease, any number of stuff going on. So I don't know that I would be that concerned about that. I mean, humidity is a problem, but I mean, unless you're talking about something that's over 100 years old, the chances of there becoming mold present or, dust mite deterioration or any of that stuff happening, I mean, it's probably not going to be anything that we'll ever see. I think the only thing that, Peter, you'd have a lot to say about, I'm sure, is when Bristol gets humid, even after it dries, to then ink on it, it does kind of funk up the surface a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like I've heard of people using irons with newsprint or different things to get it back to original surface. Or
yeah, I mean, for all the years I've been in the business, which is since 1991, paper is number one importance, because if that's bad, then nothing you do after the fact will improve it.
Right.
This is why, like, I've worked worked for the big two, and I worked for many just independent comic artists, small publishers, yada yada. And I'd bitch and bitch and bitch and bitch to every one of them. Make sure you're using the right paper.
Yeah.
I'll do everything you ask, but do this one favor. Get the right goddamn paper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for a while there, a couple of the I even remember because I was watching Jim Lee's like Twitch streams, and even he commented a couple times on a really bad batch of board that they got that they had to fucking deal with at DC for a little while, and they were hating it. They were like, "Oh, can we get our good stuff back, please?"
And that can be an issue, like even at Strathmore. Different production runs can be different. I noticed for a while that their Vellum 400 series Bristol, so the brown cover, was almost the equivalent of like a towel in its texture for about 2 years. Like before that, it was what we used to call kid finish, right? Or a real vellum finish. It was a little bit rough, but not much. And then for some reason, for a couple of years, it was like every time I'd see a pad, break it open, it literally almost looked like a napkin or a washcloth almost. The laid of the paper was incredibly coarse. And I stopped using it, and I went to smooth Bristol, and only recently did I, get back into it, into using vellum again. But it's the only thing, at least with Strathmore, is that the quality of the paper doesn't change, but sometimes the production on the surface can be off.
And it could be any number of things that could cause that too, which sucks. Because let's face it, paper is made from wood product. Like it is a wood byproduct. You need to cut down a tree. If the trees are, and it could have been like just bad batches of trees that they had to use for many years or for however long it took them until they could get that bright again. Or maybe they figured out a new way of processing the trees that made better paper again. Like there's so many factors that go into it that it's just like, fuck, how do you keep up with this stuff? Like it probably bogged their minds for a while too, but they had to keep producing the paper. Like it was in demand still.
Well, it's all in the press. A lot of it is the press. As long as the pH of the wood pulp is the same and the ingredients that they introduce are the same, then you should be getting the same surface. But yeah, there's variables. The only thing I do know is that, Canson is garbage, and
I like Canson.
Really? Like Canson?
Yeah.
Why are you getting on Canson, yo?
With a nib, though?
Wait a minute, Canson? Someone said Canson?
Yeah.
Look, I was about to say he's using it too.
Well, okay, here's to be fair though. I'm talking about that fanboy garbage.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
talking
sorry.
about the pad that you have in front of you.
Excuse me.
I think I
use that stuff and it's really good.
See, I have yet to have a nib not slice into the surface of the paper.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
That's a technique.
When I was practicing nib work, I was using fanboy paper, and I never had a problem.
Yeah, I'm digging too hard, and also who knows what I'm getting. It's a local Michael's store where the product was, and I had nothing else that I could buy because like literally everything was out. So, and I had not gotten into using mail order yet, and I'm like, all right, it feels nice, and then I'm just like. It was like I was taking the nib flat to the paper like a knife and just slicing off the top surface of the paper. And I'd never had that happen with Strathmore.
Well, with nibs, you're basically digging out paper.
Yeah.
On a micro level, anyway.
Right.
Well, that's why every now and then you gotta take a piece of tissue and clean the tip of the nib because it's going to get gummed up after a while.
Yeah, I was doing all the things, and it was just constantly happening, and so I ended up throwing out the pad to a friend and said, here, just take it. And I had some old Strathmore still laying around. It was just really dingy, and it was dented and stuff, but I ended up using that instead and had no problem. But again, that's also got to be my hand's probably heavier, maybe my angle's wrong, and like I'm digging in too much, and so that paper's not good for that kind of attack or something, right?
I think I think this is the answer, that it's going to work differently with different people. You
Right.
know,
Mhm.
it's like what I prefer isn't what other people prefer. You know, I try to be flexible in the amount of options. You know, this way, if they, you know, if the person I'm working with, you know, if I'm making their work, it's like, do you like this paper? Do you like that paper? Well, you know, this one. Okay, use that one. That works for me. It seems to work for you. Then we're good to go. You know, because for the longest time, everybody was using that freaking Blue Line Pro, and I wanted to strangle everybody.
Yeah. See that?
The what? The blue line?
So here's my question then.
That stuff
because
is so cheap, though.
Yeah, but right,
It's
and
improved
that's-
over the years, but yeah.
Oh, has it? Because I haven't used it in like a couple of years.
Yeah.
I bought some, I used it, and it does not handle like big amounts of ink at all. It just warped.
They also long time ago introduced a more expensive line that is just essentially the same blue line on Strathmore, and you can get on 200, 300, 400, or 500. If you like.
No, that'd be good. Yeah, because right now I use the Canson product. Like that's what I use. Even my comic board, which I have 2 like bundles of it that I have yet to use. It's the Canson board, and I love it. But I guess depending on how you ink will affect how you like the quality of the paper. Because I don't nib ink anymore. I use pens when I do it on paper. I just like the way the line looks.
It
that's
depends.
the advantage of a fiber tip pen.
Yeah, I guess I just like the look of that.
Well, it's also, I mean, it doesn't dig in, so it's got that.
Oh, I never had a problem with that.
Hey, Scotty's here.
How's it going, guys? Man, it's been a while since I've seen some of you guys.
Yeah, welcome. This is more of a casual evening. Studio Synergy. So just jump right in. Tell people who you are and.
Yeah, so my name is Scott Cirklin with Circworks Well, I always say illustration design. I got to get over that. Circworks Art Labs. I don't know. I do comics and I do robots, aliens, zombies, and other imminent threats to humanity. But I'm doing a bunch of stuff right now. So if I can chime in, I will. But I just kind of want to hang out with you guys a little bit. I've got to head out to do something else in an hour.
Oh, okay,
or 2.
sure.
So,
it's good to see you.
You too.
I think I've only been in a hangout with you like twice.
I would say at least twice. I mean, it goes back a ways, so I'm sure it's more than twice, but it's definitely been a while. So
yeah,
because I know you do your Artcasters thing like almost every night.
Yeah, that's actually.
I never get to watch it because it's on so late that it's like I've been fucking bed.
Well, it's on YouTube in perpetuity, so.
Yeah. Every now and then I'll
there.
throw one up while I'm working on something just to see what you guys were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how long you guys are going on, but if you guys want to, it sounds like we got a really good guest lined up. So like, I mean, obviously don't jump off to watch it, but in the replay or whatever, Josh has a friend of his that's done a lot of, I think he's production design or costume design or some kind of art direction on a lot of like huge movies. So I don't really know him, but it should be interesting. So
cool. And that's tonight. I'm totally like, oh my god, my schedule has been I roll out of bed and get to work until I have to crash, and I'm on no sort of set schedule whatsoever. But yeah, that's tonight. Cool. And
I see, who else is in here? Is it Mike Emirates? Is he in here too, or?
No, that's Pritchard.
Oh, hey.
It's different, Michael.
Oh, we got the other Scotty.
And we got Scott.
We got Scott and Scotty.
Yeah, hold on a sec.
Okay.
And then we also have Greg all the way on the other side.
All right.
See what happens when I plan these to have a big group, it never works out, but since it's more casual tonight, I get a big group. Well, welcome
Pretty much.
everybody. Just chime in when you want.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So we were talking about paper. Yeah, I mean, I use both quill and end brush, and mind you, I'm probably the most trained and skilled to a certain extent, professionally, with that crap. So I could really work on any paper. It has more to do with my perfectionist aspect of just like wanting the blacks to look utterly black on the finished page. And if you, sort of, oh, I'm getting feedback.
Scott.
Yeah, that's
Let me mute. Might be me.
Oh yeah, somebody is. Keep turning.
No, it's Scotty. No, it's the other Scott.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry
yeah,
about that.
I just realized I didn't have a video on, so I don't think it's me.
Let's see if I can fix this.
Maybe it's a video up or there's feedback somehow.
Yeah, that means it was
so-
feedbacking into his microphone. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I really want, at least I felt this way most of my career, that I want the blacks, to look as if I just freaking printed it out, solid black. And some paper, you erase even a little bit and it just wipes the black strokes away.
Oh,
I would have to go in 2 or 3 times just to read black lines and areas. Then the worst thing is like, more so with Blue Line Pro paper than anything else. It would just suck the ink into the page, and then I would definitely have to do 3 coats to get a good black out of it.
I don't know how you could get 3 coats on that stuff, because anytime I did 1 coat, it would just warp so badly.
Well, it would warp, but after a couple more coats, it would sort of even out.
Just kind of even itself out.
I had heard once that they were just basically using common printers cardstock.
Yeah,
it felt like it,
and that it was literally that much garbage. Like it was almost like that 200 series Strathmore that they use for their pre-printed boards. That's just their printing cardstock. It's not like actual Bristol. It's
right.
It's a printer's Bristol, but it's not like drawing Bristol. And so it was like, oh, we could offline this garbage and print 3 lines on it and sell pads for like, whatever, $12 or $15.
Yeah, it's like working on cardboard.
Yeah,
pretty much.
You know who was the one that told me not to buy those boards? Was Grass Green when he was still alive. I met him at a comic book show years and years and years ago. And
where do I know the name from?
He used to do stuff for Charlton. Well, he used to do stuff for Appas and fanzine stuff a long time ago. And then I think he did Zal Core, the Human Cat, and Rubberman for that company that Eric Larson first worked for when he was doing fanzines. Some Chicago outfit that was doing little comic stuff. He did Charlton Bullseye for a while.
Okay.
A bunch of stuff like that. But he was at some show I went to in New England somewhere. I think he was from Connecticut, and he had his Zalcor books and a bunch of this other stuff. And I mean, he'd been doing fanzines and stuff like that since like the late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah,
Bill Joe White and guys like that.
Yeah, fanzines. I mean, before internet and I mean that was like huge.
Paper Tumblr,
Yep.
Yeah. Well, anyway, he was the one who was like, because I'm just like a kid. I don't know how old I was. I was probably in junior high or something. And I was like, I showed him my pathetic artwork, and he was like, oh yeah, this is pretty good, man. You could do this and do that. and he was like, so how you making your own your boards, like, because I had one of those Marvel tryout books, so I just copied the lines over, And I was like, yeah, I got a non-foldable marker. He was like, I'm selling my own boards. Right? That was this other thing he was doing. He was selling printed boards. He was like, you know why? He says, don't you buy those other Blue Line boards? Or I don't remember what the company was at the time, but he was like, don't you buy those? Those are garbage. They feather, man. They feather. That was what he kept saying. Every time I look with them, they feather.
I remember back in the days some of the stuff that they had on the market was really bad before, like Strathmore and Canson started selling their own. A lot of it was really lousy paper, that Blue Line stuff.
Yeah.
So he's probably right.
I think we can all agree that the Blue Line is garbage.
Yeah. I don't know if it was the actual Blue Line company, but it was somebody who was doing it back in like early 80s or something like that. And he was all like, he was angry person about it, and he was like, I started printing my own. You could buy mine. He's shoving this flyer at me and stuff, and then he died only a few years later, I think. And I remember calling I bought one packet of it. It was like a sampler, and then like I don't know, whenever it was a few years later, I called the number, and it was just his house, and it was his wife, and she's like, oh no, Grass has passed away and stuff, and I was like, hey, paid my respects, and then that was it. But it was like I got to meet that one time. Cool guy. But yeah, he's like, it feathers, man. It's just cardstock. Don't buy it. No, I won't, sir. I won't. I definitely won't. Absolutely.
Yeah, really, Jesus. Funny. Yeah, I had the Blue Line at first just because I was learning the traditional shit, hated it, and then I started buying the Canson comic board with the printed on it, and I love it. It's way better. And again, I have two almost completely full little pads of the stuff that I've done nothing with.
Yeah, I picked up a couple of pads. We don't have any art supply store in town, so I went to the nearest town. There's a Michael's, and picked up the Canson pads, which I had to ask for. I said, I'm really interested in getting these kind of pads, and they had to go into inventory to find them. And I haven't done anything, but they're specifically set aside for comic page work.
Nice. Funny enough, I've always had trouble drawing on comic board, just because I've mentioned this before, but I'm not comfortable drawing on bigger surfaces, like bigger pieces of paper. I'm always more comfortable with slightly smaller pieces of paper. I don't know why. It's just the way I draw. It always feels weird trying to use the bigger sheet.
Well, I mean, I think most people before, like in high school or whatever, like are drawing on, regular 8x11 kind of paper, and there's a reason why comic people do it one and one half up size wise, so it prints better, but that's kind of a thing of a past, but it's still a factor for a lot of people. I mean, it's like my sister-in-law, Amanda Connor, she does a lot of stuff 8.5x11, original artwork. And it kind of doesn't matter.
Yep.
You save a tree and a half, and
well, the paper that I use even for my Inktober stuff is literally these 9x12 pieces of paper that I've cut in half. So I'm drawing on much smaller paper. Even like the bigger pieces that I've posted, like the Sephiroth or the Poison Ivy, I penciled those digitally and printed them on like the pencils onto paper.
Right.
But they're actually, like, if you would actually come look at the piece of paper, the drawings are relatively small. Like, they're not that big. So it's just, I don't know. Especially with the inking, sometimes I feel much more comfortable with the smaller paper.
I mean, that's what what's his name? J. Scott Campbell does, right? He does everything very, very small. He does thumbnails really tight, and then after that, he blows it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as long as you're able to scale it, correctly.
Yeah. Scale it right without warping it.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to see the old Silver Age pages, like before they went down to 1117, Peter?
I've seen a bunch of those. They're twice up.
Yeah,
right?
they're like almost like a half of a sheet of full Bristol or something. I know Kirby stuck out with that stuff for a long time, and then eventually he had to switch over because I mean he didn't want to pay for the paper, so he kind of like went along with the 1117, and I guess that's why a lot of layouts were 4-panel layouts early on in using the new size. So you saw a lot of Thor, a lot of Fantastic Four comics would just like straight up split the page into 4 panels because of that stuff. Because he was used to drawing really big, and it took time to like kind of be able to get it down, scale it down.
I'm having the opposite problem. I'm having to learn how to scale it up.
Yeah, because he started drawing Golden Age size, which is even bigger sheets. It's almost like a full sheet of Bristol, practically. The old 30s and 40s stuff.
That's insane.
And it was because you had more room to draw. Plus, the paper cost nothing, so it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, back then.
Yeah.
I wish it still cost nothing. God, it'd be so much nicer. A lot of the tools prices are kind of hovering a little more up in the midder range. Kazunite.
Bless you.
Thank you.
And that's one reason why I've been having trouble convincing myself to buy more of my pens. Like I use Stettler permanent liners. I was like, God, I am struggling for money right now, so it's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, I'll just go and buy more of these and a couple more thick black markers that I can use to fill in blacks. Like I don't have the money right now to do that because they're not that cheap.
You should have went to like back to school supply.
Well, this was before Inktober. Well, that was before Inktober. Like I didn't realize I was going to be doing Inktober. If I'd known that, I would have bought some more supplies.
Going to back to school, you're not telling them to rob kids, are you?
Look, man, whatever it takes to make art.
Because even I think like Jet Pens and Dick Blick were like having sales for a little while, but I think they're done with they were having Inktober sales, but I didn't catch them right away. So I think they're over
really?
With. Yeah, so they're like over with. I'm like, son of a bitch.
Although a Jet Pen sale would be like saying, well, now we're only going to charge regular MSRP retail, right?
Pretty much. Well, especially because a lot of the tools they have are imports. Like,
yeah, so
it's hard to get those for cheaper prices.
Yeah, of course. But it just means like Jet Pen sale prices are just like any day you walk into Dick Blick or go on Amazon. So it's like,
pretty much,
so you've come down off the mountain.
Yeah.
For one day only, we're going to charge you just what it costs everybody else.
Yeah. Oh, we're worthy enough for your, Japanese imports of these great tools. Like, thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's of course the thing because they get some pretty sweet.
Yes, they do. Like, I can't even be mad at them.
Yeah.
They get some sweet tools.
Yeah, they do. I'm actually looking at Dick Blick and Jet Pens right now because I'm like, hey, do they happen to have anything on sale? Although I like my Stettler markers. Like I like these better than the Microns. So I might stick with them.
Yeah, I don't. Microns, they're like really thin point. I never really got a hang of them.
Well, even my Stettler are thin point, but like they go from 0.05 all the way up to 0.8 in size. 0.8 I just use for outlining shit.
I use the Faber-Castell Pitt pens.
I used a couple. In fact, I think I have. The only one I've used with the Faber-Castell is the Pitt artist pen, like the bigger. I think it's called a B. It's like the brush.
They have a lot of different nibs, and depending on the kind of style of what you like to do or whatever, there's a lot of different options. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you used the big brush?
Oh, the sort of the giant one. Oh yeah. I have a gray one like that for gray filling in and stuff. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's almost like a paint pen kind of.
Yeah,
But it's yeah. You might like them actually, Peter.
I have a lot of these. They're microns.
You have the microns.
I don't like the microns.
They're okay for the most part, but like I just don't like the ink as much. It's not as good.
Yeah, these are good. Sharpie.
I cannot stand Sharpies.
The thing about the Pitt pens is that it's an actual archive ink, and it flows really nice out of the fiber tip. The microns tend to dry out fast and pick up paper lint, but the the Pitt ones, they don't. And I've gone through like every one of them. Like I've gone through them all, and they don't have a lot of variety of point sizes, but they have, but they cover really nicely. They're certainly not a replacement for a brush or a nib, but you can do a lot of like line fixing and kind of like, you know how you have to like sometimes, truss up a funky line or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, these are great for that, and they don't erase very well at all. So like if they're really dried, like the ink is cured, you go over with a blow dry or something, you won't pull this ink up like you will with microns and stuff. On Bristol, I'm saying, like on Bristol board.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I love like Gil Kane, but I never agreed with his method of inking, which is like,
you mean when he switched to
I will never professionally ink with any kind of marker.
Yeah.
It's got to be, either quill or brush and regular ink.
Yeah.
But as far as like doing, convention sketches or stuff like that,
Yeah.
I'll tend to use markers because it's just goddamn quicker and less mess.
Well, that thing with Kane was weird, and I'm sure it was just because he got to a point where his page rate must have been phenomenal, and he could get away with anything, right, at that point. So probably for him it was like, just do it, just get it done. But the only person who ever really made cheap markers really look cool was Alex Toth.
Right.
He was the only one that could like execute stuff that was worthy of like Warren magazines or whatever, with a lot of the stuff that he used doing animation design when he worked for Hanna-Barbera and stuff. But he was able to get the stuff out of it that was not the same as brush and pen, but it was really evocative at least, and it looked, interesting. And Chaikin picked up some of those tricks on American Flag because a lot of that stuff's marker.
Yeah, but that's like.
But it's hard. It's not an easy thing to do.
That's before inker technology, because a lot of that stuff is like, it's brown or blue or it changed colors over you.
Oh, absolutely. You've seen some of those originals now, like green and yellow and stuff. Like in fact, some of those collectors are kind of SOL because in another 25, 30 years, those originals that they paid like $400 for or something, they're just going to be ghosts.
Yeah, unless you got it in a glass case or,
Well, it's the chemistry, like the chemistry of the markers, the Sharpies, all those fiber tip pens, the flare pens. El Sharpos and all those different pens, they just go away.
We're sitting here talking about pens, and I'm just sitting here on Amazon just shopping around for pens. I'm like debating. It's like, ooh, do I want a 4-pack of Stettlers or do I want some Faber-Castell again? They got a 4-pack.
I usually go based on smell. If it smells good, then.
So did you ever ink a page with like the apple scented marker or the cherry marker?
Oh
marker?
God,
the strawberry Kelly.
Right?
Jello.
Hey,
Remember
that's
those?
better than the freaking Sharpie markers. Things give me a
that's
headache.
terrible, yeah.
Hell, things like Copics and these Dick Blick Studio like markers for like coloring and shit. Oh my god, they smell so bad.
Yeah, well, okay, so here's I'll pull a little age here. Anybody remember Sanford? The metal ones, the gray one with the concentric lines going down the barrel and the big fat black cap on it that took like your arm off trying to pull off.
Sounds familiar.
Sounds
okay,
yeah,
right?
sounds familiar.
Those literally smelled like when you put asphalt on your driveway, and they stunk up a whole room.
Oh, I know.
Okay,
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
And that goes back to like I don't know if you remember
1970s.
design markers.
yeah,
Yeah,
like this
design
is
markers.
Yeah, sign markers, right? Well, although some sign markers were okay because they were paint, right? But like the ones that were solvent based, yeah, and they were unbelievably horrible.
But the design, remember design markers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were like the glass bottles, and you unscrewed the bottle, and then they had the wick-like tip in it, and you refilled them and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I worked at an ad agency that had those.
Yeah. My first job was doing marker renderings, and it got pretty
Sure.
bad with those markers that we had back then.
So seriously, Eric, like you're totally like in dreamland now. You have no clue. Like there's between all of us who are over, I think like 45, we definitely have genetic damage from having used this from back
Yeah, well,
then.
this is another reason why I'm sticking to digital. I don't have to worry about any of that.
You got clean genes because you use digital, man.
I mean, even with my markers, like these Stetlers have no scent. Like Microns, no scent. The
Yeah,
favorite
well,
Castell, no scent. Like,
well, that's also because they're aqueous based, they're water based, so like there isn't going to be really a solvent there.
and even if I use like regular ink, like my my Pentel pocket brush, like it's like, yay, no ink. I have Sume ink still in a bottle that I used actually for one of my things. And I was like, oh, it's no scent unless I get my face up to it and then I can smell something. But you know, I opened up a freaking Oh my god, my dad actually had one of the super Sharpies, like those freaking like
Huge ones.
giant inch to inch and a half thick markers.
Yeah, those are great. They're really good for
he
film.
opened one of those things up and it was just like, fuck. I was like contact high for a good 20 minutes. Like, Jesus Christ.
It's not a real solvent marker unless you got to wear a hazmat suit while you're using it. Okay. Otherwise, you got to go back and get the real marker, man.
I'm good.
I did a video.
Yeah.
I
So
did like a comparison marker. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to ask you like, so when you're doing marker comps, when was that? Because nobody's done those.
Oh, this was. I worked for an architectural firm, and we did like. So we would do like a lot of like retail and like we did a lot of food courts and retail stores, like mall stores. So we did some cool stuff, like we did the Warner Brothers studio stores, and we got to do all the Looney Tunes and all that stuff. But we would basically design the storefront to present what it would look like before the architects built it and everything. This was 93 maybe.
Okay. Yeah, they were still. Yeah. Did you use like a lot of Letraset chart pack stuff?
Yeah. And then we had sort of an in-house design, there was an in-house interior design firm and also in-house graphic design. So every once in a while, one of these companies, they would have us do their logo and everything, and it was all hand done with tech pens on it. Like, I don't know, we call it vellum, but they call a lot of things vellum. But
Well, vellum is now more reference to texture than it is. But you were using drafting film or like Denril or something like that, right?
Yeah. Just you got your templates and your ellipse templates and your French curves and your straight edge, and you're designing logos with tech pens.
And, did you ever have water-based wet media acetate, like treated acetate? You ever use that stuff?
For what? I mean, we used like acetate, but I mean, going back to like ruby lith and amber lith and all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's for cutting. Yeah, for cutting like cut and color for pay stuffs.
Yeah.
But they used to make this stuff that was acetate, like clear, you know, like big sheets, like Bristol board size sheets.
Yeah.
But what it
They were
was,
separated
yeah, with the
little
tissue.
tissue paper between it. Yeah.
Yeah, but there was the stuff that you use just for, you know, for overlays, right? But then they also had treated acetate, and treated acetate on one side, it had this emulsion on it that was completely transparent, but you could use all wet media on it. So then, like, you could do these things like you did an ink drawing, and then you'd pull the acetate and then do wet color on it. But it worked like paper, see? Like it stuck to it like
really?
paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever used that.
Yeah, it was this weird stuff, and then they had frosted acetate, so you could do pencil or charcoal or, you know, whatever. But yeah, there was so many amazing products back then, and they really did what they were supposed to do. They were like, it was sort of like the great golden age of like graphic design products, and they were beautiful stuff to use. Like you could do all these different things with them. But
yeah, I'm glad I got the opportunity. I was going to say, I'm glad I got the opportunity to use that stuff, but now with digital, like there's no way I'm going. You can't really go back, but I mean, it's so much easier now. But it's cool to have that kind of in your back pocket and kind of have that experience.
Yeah,
they had
it was amazing.
This plastic stuff with dots on it.
Yeah, like zips and
Zipatone.
Yeah. Well, there was Zipatone, Letratone, Chart Pactone, and then there was a brand from England that we used to get in the office because they used it because a lot of it was like, dummied up like people, crowds, trees, and there was this one British company that made that really well. But Letraset ended up making the same stuff. But like I would
was
give
like
anything
for architects.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
But it was also great, like if let's say you had to throw together an illustration because I worked for a newspaper for a little while, you had to throw together an illustration because like let's say they didn't have a photo and it just had to be some people and some trees and then the car. Well, you could kind of use all that stuff and cobble it together and just have an instant illustration and just knock it out and then trace the car maybe on tracing paper and paste it on there or something like that.
Yeah. We did that all the time with the renderings because we take the pictures of the people and we just basically size them how we wanted them so they're in perspective and we drop them in there and traced them, and same thing with cars and all that stuff.
Except for we had to do it with a photocopier and like blowing it up and cutting it out and like all that crap. Oh my god.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. That's what it was.
Yeah.
We didn't have computers back then.
Like the transform tool was like taking the photocopy and photocopying it and then photocopying it, right? And
did you ever use the big giant photostat cameras?
Right, I used to use a stat camera, and then you have to do the math in your head because you're like, well, let's see if it's blown up to 200%, but I need it to be 222%.
Yeah.
So what do I have to shoot it at? And like you'd be like going nuts, kind of like. And you'd have like 25 reference drawings that all had to be done that too, right? And all that crap, contact sheets and all that stuff, man. But
going to service bureaus to have them set your type and typesetting. Oh my god, typesetting. That was I love that stuff though. You know what? I actually loved it. I thought there was something really cool about just like it was all hands on X-Actos and waxing everything and. Or like really clean rubber cement mounting for like a proposal, like a presentation. And you had to do all this stuff like clinical, like really to the nines. And otherwise, like you'd have to throw it all out and do it all over again. There's something really cool about it. And
because like if you you were like, yes, I really did it. Got it done.
Yeah, because if you sent something out to get it typeset and there was an error, they had to redo the whole thing. It wasn't you can't just go in there and
unless it was for print, and then like we would always steal type from something else and like cut that R out and then replace it or something like that. But that was because it was for print, right? So it didn't matter. But
it's like I started my comic career in '91, and I worked for a big ad agency, Danson Fitzgerald and Sample, probably mid to late 80s for, whatever it was, 4 years or so, before they were bought out by Saatchi & Saatchi. but they were the fourth largest ad agency at the time. And if you watch Mad Men, they mention it a couple of times.
Really?
And it's like I really wish I was even somewhat focused on art at that point in time, because I knew this girl there that was working on computers there, and she took me up and showed me around a bit. But it's like I really had no interest at that point in time, even though like it was blocks away from Marvel Comics. It's like I just have a day job, I have a steady paycheck. It's like I'm not worried about having a career in art. It's just whatever. It's a hobby at the moment. But she showed me around, and it's like, oh man, these computers are amazing, and I would love to learn, but I don't have one at home. And it's like she kind of like wanted to show me, and I just didn't have the interest at the time. I wish I did, though. Thinking back, the opportunities I had before me in different ways.
Yeah, well, yeah, because like you look at people like Starkings and Laverne Kinzersky and all these people that like kind of blazed all the trails for coloring and lettering, and stuff, and it's really just because they bought a computer and hammered on it. It wasn't because they had like a degree or something. They just were the ones who were willing to break through it. And then what they are now, right? Like they sort of invented those industries. So
it's like I forget what year it was, but when the first Atari home computers came out, I had the 400, which was just like a flat keyboard model, and then I upgraded to a 800, and I was mostly playing around. It's like I would, I bought it and brought it home, and I would play around for hours, just like freaking changing colors on lettering, and just like moving moving things around on the screen. But it's like I really wish, it's like I kept with computers, just like, I mean, in retrospect, that just like there were years I didn't keep up with artwork, or years I didn't keep up with writing. A lot of my main interests and everything that I'm sort of incorporating now, it's like I didn't always have consistency with. But I think by focusing on different things, I also really spend time and improved my knowledge and craft on that, because of my obsessive compulsive focusing ability.
Yeah. It took me a while before I even got into the whole full-on digital work, because like I said, I never got comfortable with the graphics tablets, like the ones on the tables.
Right.
I just never could get used to them, so I just used them for cleaning things up, coloring. I slowly started trying to use it for like inking, but I just never was that I was just like, this is weird. And then because of YouTube, thankfully, he just came to me and was like, hey, you want to review a tablet? And I was just like, I ain't gonna say no. And they sent me one, and I got to learn how to use a screen tablet, which was very weird at first, because I spent, all my time learning how to draw, and all my time practicing everything on paper with pens and stuff like that. All of a sudden now I'm relearning a craft on a different thing. but I guess because I was still young, like much young, even younger than I am now, it was easier for me to get in and just jump into it. Or maybe it's because I have that ability apparently, because I've only been playing drums for like a few weeks and I'm already decent enough at them. So
I think it has something there's something to be said for just being an early adopter. Like, because Greg was talking about like Richard Starkins being kind of the first one to start doing that on the computer, or like you, Eric, like you got in on kind of on the ground floor on like Skillshare, right?
Yeah, the Skillshare was.
Yeah, so
I think Skillshare was a thing for a while, but when I got on there wasn't a ton of teachers.
Right.
There probably wasn't anyone doing comics at the time.
Not really. There was only like a handful who were doing anything close to what I was doing. I was the first one who said, I'm going to do a class on how to make a comic book. Like, start to finish. Like, I was the first one who did like an actual like hour-long, I'm going to teach you each of the steps. I'm going to explain what I'm doing. Like, I think the only other person who did one was one who was doing like a webcomic thing. And it was a relatively short class. It got the information across. But I was like, no, because I want to teach as much information as I had at the time. So, you know, it was an hour-long freaking class. And that's actually where I won. Actually, yeah, because it wasn't Oogie. I remembered that wrong. It was Cintiq because I won a Cintiq 13 HD from Skillshare because they were having a contest. And that was the first time I'd done the class, is because they wanted a class for that. And so I entered my comic book class into it, and I won.
Yep.
First contest I've ever been a part of, and I win. And I won a goddamn.
Now it's like flooded with, you know, comic classes and stuff. So I mean, just the fact that you kind of got in there in the beginning, you know.
Yeah. Part of me kind of misses that Cintiq because it was small. Like, it has nothing to do with like the production quality or anything. It, like, I love Oogie. I love this tablet. Like, I have the nice 22-inch one, full HD. It's my main monitor. It's what I'm looking at now. But I still miss working on the smaller Surface. Like, it's the only reason I'm like, man, I wish I had that 13 HD back because it was smaller.
I haven't heard of that brand. What brand do you have? Oogie, you said?
Oogie. Yeah, UGEE. They're they're part of like a group of Chinese companies who are trying to compete with Cintiq, or not Cintiq, with Wacom. You have them, you have Huion, you have like XP or something. Like, there's a bunch of them now, and I'm like, it's hard to keep up with some of them because I have them all saved.
It's kind of like it's a little like whack-a-mole out there. It's just every time you think there couldn't possibly be another copycat, they're there every year, right? Isn't there like 2 or 3 more?
Well, that's pretty much, yeah, that's kind of who they are. Like, yeah. I stick with Oogie because they treated me well. They're actually apparently one of the people who I've been talking to. Oogie themselves is working on another one that's hopefully will be coming out soon-ish. But then the person who I've been working with, who's kind of an associate, she has a store on Amazon. She runs the store. Her other company that she works for is apparently going to be putting out, or going to be like dipping their toes into the whole screen tablet thing. So I'm probably going to end up getting one of those eventually to try out. The only thing I have from them right now are their light boxes, they're good light boxes. I use them. So I'll see if they're any good.
Oh, are they the type, the sort of the thin panel style?
Yeah, the thin LED light boxes. I love them. Like, they're not bulky. They're easy to move around. They're bright as hell because they're LEDs. I mean, they're bright.
All my
really
friends
good.
that work at tattoo shops use those style. It seems like. I mean, there are some that still have like a actual like light box, but like almost all of them now have those compact ones because it just takes up a lot less space and they don't get hot. And
yep. They get a little warm because it's still light, but because they're LEDs, they don't actually produce a lot of heat, so it's really good.
Yeah, right. That makes sense. And really, it's just this LED strip along the edge, right, with an encasement around it, right?
I believe so. I think they might have like a couple going down the centers as well, just to keep even lighting.
Oh, I see.
I haven't disassembled one to look, so I don't know. I have 3 actually.
Yeah, right.
In fact, I actually was using it to do three of my Inktober pieces. The Sephiroth, Poison Ivy, and the Mirror Master, because I printed on paper after I did the pencils digitally because they were a little more complicated. I printed them on just printer paper, and then I used the light box to ink it over top onto some really good, like my good Bristol paper. Or sorry, my Canson paper. I always say Bristol because I think of it as like the type of paper rather than the company.
Yeah.
Well, it is. Yeah.
There's a company. There's a company called Bristol. I thought it was.
Is Bristol the
I think Bristol's
term
a
for the
type.
paper? Okay, so that's a type.
So.
Okay, so I was saying it right. Screw you, Peter. Now you're confusing me.
He's the seasoned pro, and he's allowed to fuck with your ass, man.
Yeah, no, fuck off.
I usually go to England, Bristol, England, to pick up paper.
Isn't that? I mean, if you're a real inker, that's what you do, right?
I'm a digital inker. Fuck off.
Real inker goes to Bristol, England, gets his paper. I think they give it to you when you actually get off the plane, like when you go to Hawaii and they put the lei around your neck.
That'd be a great way to like sell tickets for fucking going to fucking England. It's like, hey, if you're a comic artist,
you go on British Airways.
We'll give you free paper.
And then you get this big pile of Bristol board, and then they send you packing.
Yep.
Where's my So I don't know if you guys know, and I don't know if I'll whack out my computer trying to look, but my brother Jimmy left Facebook. Now, mind you, like every once in a while, I could do a post on Facebook and get like 100 comments. Like almost every post he made, he was getting like 100 comments. And I know he's a fast typist, being mostly a writer now currently. But he decided to leave. He still has his company page up there, paperfilms.com. But where is he? Oh, he's in New Orleans currently, I think.
New Orleans.
Let's
go to New Orleans, y'all.
I was going to say across the water somewhere, but no, he's in New Orleans. We're supposed to hang out at some point before the end of the year, if all goes well.
That'd be fun.
How are you going to do that?
Well, no, I mean at his home in Florida.
How can you possibly?
I have three brothers, and they're all living in Florida now.
Oh boy.
So I haven't seen. All of us haven't been together since, I don't know, my mom passed away 11 years ago.
You're due for a family reunion.
Yeah, so we're due. And it's like when I was living in New York, I used to see Jimmy all the time. I mean, because we were the last two brothers in New York. I mean, I've always been closest to Jimmy. Anyway, we have a lot of the same likes and love going out to the movies all the time and yada yada yada. But since we both split from New York in different directions, we've loosely kept in touch, but it's definitely not the same as when we were growing up. But yeah, I miss all my family. Both my parents have passed away, so it's just my three brothers, and they're all married. And my brother Anthony is the only one with kids, and he has two boys. And they're grown up, so it'd be great to see everybody for sure.
Yeah, hopefully get a chance to do that. Yeah, I'm lucky. Like all my family lives here where I'm at in Arizona, and then like my girlfriend, her family, some of them live kind of all over, but they always do like family reunions every couple of years, which is cool. So yeah, hopefully you get a chance to do that.
Yeah,
My family don't want nothing to do with each other. Like, is somebody dead? All right, then I don't need to see you people.
yeah, oh my god. But that's what I felt like. Like, you know, my father passed away out in '88, and he was always the one to really bring family together. Because, you know, at that time we had aunts and uncles and everything all around New York, and you know, back when we were all still in New York, and he made it a point that everybody got together and hung out, families and kids and everything. After he passed away, and not too short after, it's like, where did everybody go? You know, it's like nobody sees anybody anymore.
My family
But
was
that's
like that too from New York. We were all
yeah,
in
it's
Brooklyn.
like you have that one person that brings everybody together, and
Yeah, in my case, it was like apparently I never knew my grandfather, but my grandfather was real hardline, real hard ass. So he kind of kept the family all in Brooklyn, and we all lived on Carroll Street. We apparently everybody was right there, and and then like this one got a decent job and got out of the Navy, and so they went to New Jersey, like my one aunt and uncle, and so that broke that out. And then like eventually my other aunt and her husband, they moved to Queens, to Rosedale, and eventually they went to Florida. So it was like and like my dad and me, we were the last ones in Brooklyn until we moved out to the island. So it was like Nassau County, and then these were in Queens, and then these people were in Jersey, and then eventually people trickled down to Florida, and we moved up here to Vermont. So it was like, but as soon as like apparently there was a lot of get-togethers when everybody was still in New York, but once the part of
yeah,
the family went to Florida, forget it. It was all like that family thing was kind of all done.
yeah.
So Italians really love to move to Florida, man. We just love to move to Florida. I don't know what's up with that.
It's like I don't mind the heat, but
It's gross, man.
I have no desire whatsoever to move to Florida.
Yeah, no, it's a pit.
You know, I'd rather live in Vegas. My oldest brother was in Vegas until a couple of years ago.
Right.
Him and his wife, and they loved it out there. But he's getting older, and she's getting older, and they wanted to be around some family. Because I mean, they had friends out in Vegas and whatnot, but really, their only family are my other brothers. So,
Right. That's some friends.
and nobody wants to be near me because I'm just dangerous.
Wow.
I'm kidding. Nobody wants to be in Kentucky. That's just weird.
Well, that might be understandable. Depending on where you're from, who knows? Like maybe some people don't want to be in the deep south. I mean, is Kentucky deep south? Is that?
It's south enough.
It's south enough, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, Robert Kirkman's from here, so just take
Can't be
that
all
for
bad.
what it's worth.
The bourbon's not a good enough of a draw.
Yeah, now you
Down there?
understand Walking Dead. So
Right.
Yeah. Walking Dead returns Sunday, peoples.
Oh, does it? I didn't even know. It's
Yeah.
creeping up on me. Stranger Things is gonna
Yeah.
be out too soon.
Oh
Yeah,
my
that's
goodness,
gonna-
yeah. I'm looking
That's going to
forward
be
to
amazing.
that. That's our new trailer for that. Looks awesome.
That actually makes me think of something. Walking Dead. Well, Walking Dead, of course, did migrate from comic to TV, but it's amazing how many things now that aren't, they weren't comics to begin with, but you can see how much comics have influenced TV production and sort of how they sort of like guide a serialized storyline. Like TV, like comics really won the culture war in terms of sequential storytelling into other mediums. It wasn't film that actually ended up taking the lead. They're all taking their cues from comic books. And
I would
even
agree
think
with that,
thematically-
except it's not necessarily benefiting comics.
Oh, I'm not going either way on that. I'm just
Yeah.
speaking like purely academically. I mean, it's really interesting that, like, in the end, comics taught most of these showrunners how to kind of dice up a story over X amount of installments, and sort of what you do in each installment, and how you keep people, even if it's just like The West Wing or something. Like, there's so many shows out there where you can, if you're good at it, you can pick it out. You can see how, 20 years of comics, particularly like Vertigo style stuff or whatever, like really has had this huge influence.
I'll just think of how many everyone wants to do a cinematic universe of whatever property they have now. I mean, it's
That's true too. Yeah.
Marvel, kind of laid that groundwork, and now it's like,
well, now
if
everyone
somebody
has to
was
do it.
pitching anything, we want to do like what Marvel's doing. So.
Yeah.
Except that I only think a few can pull that off.
Oh yeah, well, I don't think anyone has yet, but maybe
except for Marvel.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But it also helps that they laid the groundwork for it very early. So
yeah,
that's
everyone else is catching up.
Oh, geez.
It's not the same thing, but like catching whatchamacallit, catching fire.
Halt and Catch Fire.
Hunger Games.
Hunger Games. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, there's been plenty of those kind of things, like where it's just
yeah, but they're all still in the same, based on the same book. They don't like cross into other thing where everything's interconnected. I mean,
true.
And but obviously they've been doing that in comics forever, and filmmakers probably never even thought that people would get on board for something like that until they did it. So
I think a lot of it too is just that the people who are in there, who got into TV particularly, seem to all have common backgrounds with reading a lot of comics in their youth, and then maybe even into their college years. So it's sort of like this way of compartmentalizing a long story over 13 episodes or installments or whatever it is, kind of got ingrained. Whereas, I mean, you can see the cultural difference between people who were born in the 60s or 70s or later and people who were born before, in terms of their ability to produce episodic television versus single episode story television. And I have this, and you keep asking, it's like, oh, I love to read X-Men, and it's like, yeah, like something got ingrained early on about like, oh no, you can do these like protracted stories that have a lot of different plots involved and character development involved. And it seems like a lot of these folks really just picked that up from different kinds of comics, even if whether it's Sandman or whatever. And then it's not hard to see them do like like Hannibal, which was amazing, and that like anybody could have taken the scripts from Hannibal and made a comic series on Vertigo, with Vertigo with that, like easily. Like I think it has this profound effect on the storytelling.
Yeah. I just saw a trailer. They're bringing back X-Files yet again as a TV series.
Yeah, they got another.
I think they have another short season or something.
It's actually, they got more episodes. It's going to be 11 episodes this time instead of 8. So they have more leeway to do longer. And it's all conspiracy this time. It's not going to be sort of disconnected stories like the one they did last year. So if you're a fan of the alien thing and that part of it, it's going to be kind of your season, sort of.
I never watched the series per se. I've seen tons of random episodes. I watched the movies. I did see at least half of that last season. It's like I enjoy it, but I never really was what you call, just total fan of it. But it's like it's a quality show, or at least it used to be.
The guy who created it really did a pretty exceptional job with it. I think what's good now is that they had the time to they have more money, for one thing, involved, and they have more clout because of the history of the show. So it's almost like they can do more or better shows now with that whole thing than they would have been able to do at the time, because they were fighting against a lot more network, pushback and money pushback, and who are you, and this has never been done before. Well, now it has a history of being like one of the most successful TV shows ever. Yep. So it has this extra, now they can do actually more shows like they wanted to do, which is interesting, even though they have less time. Because,
I know, like, from my perspective, what made that show really great was that they got the right actors.
Oh, it was everything. A lot of it was for sure.
Yeah.
That's one of those perfect storms where just like the right thing happens, and you could never, duplicate the effect, right? Because if you didn't have those people playing those characters, then it just, it's like Star Trek or something.
Yeah. I know there's a new Tick show.
Yeah.
And I saw the commercial and it's like, it looks kind of lame, and it has, my reaction to it has more to do with, well, I like the original Tick show, and that was fine. And the actor was awesome in it, and
he does like tons of commercials.
Patrick Warburton.
Warburton.
Yeah, and he was just hilarious in it, and but I've heard good things, but it's like I only have so much time in my life left and to watch.
Speaking of time left, I gotta head out, guys. But
I figured.
Hopefully you'll do some more of these. Hopefully you do some more of these, Peter. And let
Same
me know
here, actually.
All right. I'll see you guys.
All right, take care, man. Good luck tonight.
Nice to meet you.
Have fun.
Thanks.
Later, Scott. I actually got to go as well because it's 11 o'clock and I need to go rest a little while before I go to bed because I cannot sit in this chair and then go right to bed. I will fucking cramp up.
Yeah, so. Well, I was kind of like, we're talking TV shows, so it's time to wrap up.
We moved over to TV.
But if you're wondering what I'm doing, I was just doodling. I don't know, mindless doodles. Yeah. So let's go from left to right. We got Eric. You want to shout out any of your sites or tell people to go look at something?
Yeah, pretty much just look up my name, Eric Faris, Faris, on most things. Yeah, pretty much everything I use my real name. On Facebook, it's Art of Eric Faris. On Tumblr, it's the same thing. On YouTube, same thing. You can pretty much find me anywhere like that. I mainly just, right now, the only thing I'm doing is Inktober, and my band is trying to finish up our first album, hopefully by the end of this month. So look for that hopefully soon.
Soon. Awesome. And we have Greg.
Yeah, I am Greg Giordano, and you can find me anywhere on the internet as FlameApe. I'm on Facebook as FlameApe, The Art of Gregory Giordano. My website is flameape.org, and my comic that never really seems to get finished is Holiday Mountain Madness, and you can find that at holiday with 2 L's comic.com.
And that's published by Has Comics, isn't
it? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. We'll meet in Vegas, baby.
You got my logo on your thing.
That's right.
And we had Michael with us tonight. Hey, Michael.
Hey, yeah. So as far as where you can find me, I don't know, here or there, Banff anywhere, on Instagram. Just think about Nightcrawler and you'll get it. And then DeviantArt at let's see, it's Banff27art .deviantart.com. Just working on Inktober right now. Have some projects lined up, but I'm gonna do Inktober first, and then see if I can't get ahead of steam to finish up the art project. So
Cool, cool. Well, thank you very much for joining.
I appreciate the invite. It was awesome. Thanks.
Ah, cool. And Scotty,
Hey, what's up?
hey, welcome. Sorry,
I've been
you
kind
were
of
having-
quiet listening to everybody talk about TV shows and what have you. Currently, you can look up anything. It's pretty much under my name for me, just Scotty Clayton. I don't have all my websites and everything are down until my computer gets back from the shop. So
Understood. Well, thanks for joining in. Sorry you had sound issues.
nah, it's all right. It all happens. So
Yeah.
there was something. If I could pipe in real quick
Sure.
about this will be really short because I know everybody's got to go. If you guys get the chance, check out on Netflix if you have it. Check out Voltron Legendary Defender. And here's why. For a few reasons. One, the animation is actually done by a very creative team. They are composed from people that left Warner Brothers Animation, including like Lauren Montgomery, who, if you some of you know her name, she directed the Wonder Woman animated movie, direct-to-video, and a few other like DC like movie type projects. And then, but what's really amazing is that the animation team they put together was also animators from Nickelodeon, including Avatar: The Last Airbender and Korra, the Legend of Korra. And what's really awesome is that they have perfected they perfected the skill of doing a serialized animated TV show that keeps you in your seat every time you watch an episode.
Well, I definitely like the Last Airbender cartoon series was like 100% that. It's like I'd never been so engaged with an ongoing animated series than I was with that. And I've seen a couple of minutes of Korra, and I do want to sit down and watch it when I'm not like worried about 100 other things. So I'm like totally focused on it. But yeah, I mean, like I have no interest in Voltron either, but I'll check it out because of the people behind it.
Yeah, true. And I was the same way too. I'm just like, oh wait, what? No, oh man, what is this gonna be? What is this gonna look like? Oh, but really,
I've been meaning to watch it just because it's Voltron. I didn't even care who was animating. I'm just like, it's Voltron. He's back. I need to watch it.
They've done a way where they fleshed out the entire they fleshed out the universe. Like they gave it an essence. They gave it its own like sense of depth, which I thought was really awesome in how they did it. And it really makes you feel for these characters, especially for me when I went in like an asshole, like, who are these people? Man, they're gonna die, right? Hopefully, this one. Come on, he's gotta be no.
Cool.
A Netflix show that's in that
Chi
same
is
vein.
actually voiced by Steven Yeun, who played
Glenn.
from The Walking Dead.
Glenn?
Why did he have to die? Glenn, no.
Pizza dude.
Glenn. Yeah.
Glenn. Can you hear us?
Maybe he can't hear us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That
can
might
hear
be
you.
what's going on. Oh, okay, good. Yeah,
Oh.
they were saying Glenn.
I think he's just having a little bit of connective issues.
Oh, he might be. Yeah, I was on another thing like this earlier tonight, and one of the guys was just like freezing up, and then something weird happening. We only had 3 people too, and I was doing it. But I was like, the show on Netflix, the animated show that I actually got really into. Maybe it's total garbage. I don't know. I liked it. was this the Warren Ellis Castlevania.
Oh yeah, that's actually pretty good.
It's
I
really
heard
good.
things about Castlevania, and that's based off of like the video game from way
Yes.
back when.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was Warren Ellis. Now you got
Yes.
me interested.
Yeah.
I
No,
freaking love Warren Ellis.
And they're only like 22-minute episodes, and I'm like,
Oh,
I ground through it like real fast, and I was like, this was really fun. It was like the first time I had fun
yeah.
watching something like junky kind of animated stuff in a really long time. And it was like, I can't believe I'm watching this thing, but it was ridiculous, but it was really cool, and the animation was really pretty awesome.
Cool.
Really fun. Yeah. So
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw like they got to like when they as soon as they said like Castlevania, I was just like, are they gonna get the people who did Hellsing to do this? But then they got a different team. I was like, oh well, it still looks good.
still looks cool.
Because seriously, the team who did Hellsing Ultimate would have loved to have handled this, but
Sure.
yeah,
Sure.
Mm. Well, much like video games and animation, it's like it's just potluck who gets what.
pretty much. Yeah.
It seems, yeah. All right. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed being in my Studio Synergy, and everybody out there enjoyed watching the latest episode of Studio Synergy. We will be back on a somewhat regular occasion coming up. Probably not this month because I'm buried in Inktober and upgrading my YouTube channel over time, and just overall, I want to stream just more drawing. And typically, I have it correct now, but I didn't turn the program on, and I just went to stream, and this is what you got. But yeah, so I'm across the web as Peter Palmiotti, but you already know that. We'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching. Give us a like and tell us what you think in the comment section. All right. Later.